Remember when I flipped the English leagues? Well, I've attempted flipping the other leagues in Europe too. Kind of. You see, some of the European leagues were impossible to actually flip because of the amount of divisions it actually broke out into. Some of them just straight up just didn't work when I loaded it on the database, and some of them took me over 2 hours to do. Let's see what the European leagues kind of looks like when they're all kind of flipped. But alas, today we will witness what happens when Real Madrid are in the third tier of Spain, with Barcelona in the other group of the third tier. They're even lower than the Barcelona B and Castilla Youth Academy teams. But even straight away in the first season, we can already see right here in the 3 Liga, in the German league, the third tier, Bayern Munich are going up as top, but Borussia Dortmund, the second arguably biggest club in Germany, are not even promoted, so they spend a second season in the third tier. Now it's Wrexham who have won the Premier League, with Notts County finishing in second place. We've got some national teams managing to get into the Champions League, but if we go all the way down to the actual national team, we can see that Manchester City and Liverpool are promoted. Tottenham finishing second with 99 points. No promotion for them. Chelsea in 4th, Manchester United in 5th, but with Champions League football because they won the Europa League, and Arsenal in 6th place with Europa League football because it looks like they won the EC2 or the FA Cup, something like that. Oh, it was indeed the FA Cup. They beat Tottenham on penalties. Now, of course, what makes this experiment quite interesting is because the longer that these big clubs spend in the lower divisions without getting any promotion, the lower their reputation goes, the more likely they are to lose players, the more likely they are to suffer in the long run and potentially not bring themselves back to the top divisions. Castellón won their very first ever La Liga, which isn't a surprise, I guess. They have been in that top division, but if you go down a little bit further, we can see that Real Madrid's second team did finish in second, but they still can get promoted for some bizarre reason, and the actual promotion side of it looks very bizarre because 10th place goes up because the rest of the teams, I don't quite know why actually 10th place has gone up. Maybe it's the playoff. Yeah, so they want a playoff, but you can't have the Barcelona B team, Real Sociedad B team in that playoff, so it's had to narrow down to the 3 that on a B team that have gone up, if that makes sense. But if we go down even further, we can see the clubs that have gone up in this league or this division. If we actually go to the actual leagues itself, we've got Real Madrid, who did win the league, 105 points. They lost 1 game to Real Sporting. Sociedad got to the playoffs, but that's still to be played, I believe, to the final. And in the other division, Barcelona also went off, and the playoffs are now going to be played out between those 4 clubs there. So in the second group, there are more clubs that got to the playoffs than what they did in the first group in the Spanish third division. The French league was the other league that I was able to flip. Unfortunately, for some reason, the Serie A and the Portuguese league just did not work at all, so I don't know why. The Ligue 1, though, was won by Châteauroux. We've got Bastia there in second place, so they've got Champions League football next year. Dunkirk is up there. But if you go a little bit further down, Auxerre won the second division. The third division is where we're going to find the likes of PSG, but we still got Lyon, Monaco, Nice, Marseille, all of these huge. Lille, who's only just won the French league a couple of seasons ago, they're still going to be in the third division now. And look at all those big teams who got relegated yet again. They're going to go into the very low regional leagues of France. Despite a lot of these teams still being in lower divisions, they're still making huge transfers, as we can see here. Real Madrid are buying Pau Torres. Man City have bought Bukayo Saka for £55 million now in League 2. If we go another year, we've got the likes of Tammy Abraham leaving Roma and going to Inter Milan, even though that's not been changed, that league. But Inter also bought Vitinha. So there's a lot of different things that are happening in the lower divisions where players are kind of just going to other lower leagues, and we can see quite a few different names move into clubs that maybe you've never heard of. Kang In Lee, for example, going to this club. Ferrell, who are in the La Liga Santander, would never have been able to pick up a club like this. So these are the clubs that potentially could be winning themselves a future in these top divisions, because they're going to start buying better players. They're going to eventually come up against all the good clubs who are going to get to the top again, and they might actually stand a chance of surviving. I took a weird glance away then, because I'm sure I just seen Diego Costa from Levante to Cornella for 20 million. It's the same. They spent 20 million on a 35-year-old. Okay, what I just said, rephrase it. The clubs that are intelligent with their money in the top divisions might actually stand a chance to survive. When you're signing a 35-year-old Diego Costa for £20 million, I don't think you're going to stand that much of a chance. The madness continued with Salford winning the Premier League second season, with Wrexham dropping down to 8th place. The same Salford that won the Championship last season too. In Spain, this happened too, with the champions of the second division last season having an invincible season back in the top flight, who apparently only signed Adnan Januzaj. Both Barcelona and Real Madrid, however, were already on their way back to claim La Liga, as are PSG in France, and the big teams in Germany too. Dortmund are still suffering, however, so there is still fun to be had with another failed promotion from the third tier. Similar dire situation for Manchester United, Arsenal, Newcastle, and the rest of the Premier League teams as Chelsea and Tottenham gain promotion. I don't think it's going to be a shock to anybody, but the Italian clubs are starting to dominate Europe. Inter Milan's won the Champions League twice in a row. That's so unfortunate that the flipping of the leagues just didn't work for Italy. I'm not quite sure why. But if we do go down, Manchester United, despite being the Vanarama National League, got to the semi-final and lost to Inter Milan. The quarter-final, we can see some different clubs in there, like Slavia Prague and Anderlecht, who maybe would never have made it if it wasn't for the fact of these leagues being flipped. And round of 16, you've got the likes of Wrexham actually making it to the round of 16. The Castellon team, the SK Sturm, who, you know, would never make usually outside of the group stage, have done it this year. Holstein Kiel, former youth to gold team that we have done. So the group stages must have looked very peculiar, because Strom beat like Napoli to the top of the division there, which is insane. We've got some massive clubs not quite obviously making it into the Champions League, which is allowing these smaller clubs to get there. Notts County unfortunately didn't have a great time in a group which consisted of Austria, Vienne, PAOK and Vizela. Yes, this is the Champions League, so it's quite fun to look at, to be fair. Another year on, I'm finding it really weird how the Italian clubs are buying from each other instead of like predominantly buying from the clubs that haven't been able to get promotion yet, which is strange. I mean, Milan is the one that's excluded here. They got a Yatharbal for 65 million, which is, of course, I think his release clause. But you can see like Inter's buying from AC and Atalanta. It's a bit strange, to be fair. We are seeing some movements which are a bit, you know, outside the box. Ryan Aït-Nouri going from Wolves to Northampton for £23 million. Northampton, who are in the Premier League and have done quite well this season, in 4th place. So stuff like that is great to see. So, and a couple of Sabadell here have bought, you know, spent £30 million on a player, Joe Willett from Newcastle and Matelma from Brighton. Two fantastic signings there for Sabadell. And hopefully they've done quite well in La Liga. 5th place, which is not bad, because considering Real Madrid and Barcelona are back, and they have won and came 2nd place in there. But it's still good to see a couple of the other teams up there fighting and getting very close to maximum points. 94 points there from a team finishing in 4th place. You would never see that outside of an experiment like this. The other clubs are starting to catch up, though. Of course, we've got Sevilla and Real Sociedad getting promotion. The playoffs consist of, you know, 2 or 3 teams from La Liga, definitely. So the rest of the teams now in the lower divisions, especially in Spain, are going to start feeding their way through. Atletico only just getting promoted as champions in the 3rd division there. And in the opposite league, we've got Almeria and Valencia have to go to the playoff. Valencia still might be in the 3rd division. So that's quite interesting. If we go to the Bundesliga 3rd division there, I had it right there, click. Did Dortmund finally do it? Yes, 92 points. Only just ahead of Freiburg to get that champion spot, but they have now gone up. I wonder how many players they still have. They still have an unbelievable side. They've actually like bought good players too. They've got Alexis McAllister somehow. So they're actually like signing some extra players as well as keeping their other players, which is quite intriguing, to be fair. In the Bundesliga 2, we've got Bayer Leverkusen now finally getting back up to the Bundesliga, as well as Mönchengladbach and Cologne. And in the top division, Bayern win the league without ever losing a game. But at least Leipzig were only 2 points behind, and the only 2 games they lost, one of them was against Bayern, the other one was against Wolfsburg. So that win against Wolfsburg, they got that. They could have won the league. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way. Munster, who in the Champions League last season, relegated this year, which is unfortunate. They got a cool badge. So Holstein Kiel's up there in Europa League. It's quite nice to see that. In the Premier League, though, Sheffield Wednesday, back-to-back promotions. I believe they won the Championship last season. They have won the Premier League this year. Ipswich in 2nd place. So that's 2 of the League 1 sides who have got back-to-back promotions and already overtaken the clubs from the National League that were in the Premier League. We still got some that's holding on. Wrexham there in 6th place. Salford obviously won the Premier League last season. But the clubs who are trying to claw back, Norwich are going to be back into the Premier League. Middlesbrough, 2 clubs who started in League 2. So that's nice to see that. Liverpool, Man City, the first 2 clubs that got promoted from the Vanarama National League are going up with 134 points without losing a game, Liverpool, which is insane. Man City down 123 points, finishing in 2nd place. Then you go down and hopefully, I say hopefully, I don't want it to be hopefully, but you'd expect it to be, isn't it? It's Chelsea and Tottenham who came up from the Vanarama National League the season before. Manchester United and Arsenal are finally getting themselves out of that division. They've gone up. Nottingham Forest went into administration, so that's 10 points deducted from them. They're in 15th there, so they haven't been relegated, but they're probably, them and Palace are the lowest 2 Premier League sides, down in 15th and 16th. It's going to look very bleak for those types of teams. I've gone to 2030, so I've skipped a few seasons, and I want to see what has really gone back to normal and what's changed. So Real Madrid's won 4 years in a row, but Real Betis actually won the 2nd year that Real Madrid were in that division. So Real Betis have done exceptionally well. They've got themselves a La Liga. They've also got themselves a Victor Osimhen, which isn't going to harm whatsoever. So they've actually bought a free transfer as well from Napoli. Who, remember, we didn't change that. We didn't change the Italian league. So that's insane. That's a weird transfer that's happened there. But fair play to Real Betis. They've done quite well there. So in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich has dominated once again, which is a shame. Dortmund are up there, though. That's cool that they've managed to claw themselves back. In the other division, let's take a look. I mean, Italy are now the highest reputation. Not really too surprised. We don't have them loaded. I tried hoping to see whether that would do anything. It didn't. The Premier League, Manchester City are champions. Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea. Man United are up there now, so they probably had back-to-back-to-back-to-back. But Arsenal relegated. The first season Arsenal are back in the Premier League, they go back down. That's incredibly interesting because you can see their trajectory down here. They went all the way up alongside Manchester United. They finished in the Premier League last season 4th. Did they actually do that? Oh my God, what happened? What happened? Because there are some serious players. I mean, that probably happened. £91 million on the outs. So they sold quite a lot of players. Jaden Bogle. Yeah, so across the seasons, I'll imagine they just started to sell. If you look in this section here, you're going to see a lot of the players that they start off with start to leave. Even though they're signing like some good players. I mean, he's only on loan, I guess, but £46 million out there. Benjamin White. There are a lot of players going for free because, of course, they want top division football. They want Champions League football. Martinelli going to like Barcelona. So yeah, and that's cost them big time because their team now, it still looks good though. You still got Scamacca, Emile Smith-Rowe, Jacob Ramsey, James Maddison. How has this team gone down? Paqueta's there. And they got themselves relegated alongside Southend and Blackburn. But the club's staying up. MK Dons, Salford, Solihull Moors are still there from that first division. Wrexham look like they have gone down, but the likes of Solihull Moors, Notts County have stayed up from the Vanarama national teams. I think Southend might have gone down and come back up a few times. They have. So they've like done quite with Mark Van Bommel. They've done quite well of going back up and down. But Erling Haaland stayed at Manchester City. And they still got like Bukayo Saka who they signed. So they're going to be incredibly difficult to beat. They've won the last 3 seasons. The clubs coming up though, Bristol City. Wrexham just missed out on the playoffs there. Who is still in the Vanarama National League? We're going to see like just drapes of different Premier League sides now coming up. So Plymouth's just been relegated from League 1. They probably stayed there the whole time. Southampton just been promoted. In the Sky Bet League 2, Leeds have just coming up alongside Luton and Aston Villa. There's no other Premier League sides in there, but there's a couple of like Vanarama national teams who just kept on getting relegated that I can see in that one. And in the Vanarama National League, we've got Fulham and Wolves just getting themselves promoted. Forest, Palace are still down there. Brighton are still down there. This not good for some of these ex-Premier League teams. Interesting stuff. The French League, we didn't take a look at the last time, so we'll have a look at it now. Mbappe's still at PSG. They have pretty much won every single season other than one when Monaco managed to pinch it before they came back up. Oh no, they didn't. Oh, yeah, they did. I was reading that wrong. So, Monaco have done quite well to hold on to it because they're only a point behind them this season. You got the likes of Metz there. I can't really see any of the old third division sides that are still in League 1, but I know that they dropped down to 18 clubs as well, so there's like more relegations going down. Nice are coming up. So let's take a look at the Champions League then. What I'm also curious with, because I don't think I checked it last time, is the Ballon d'Or, whether that's been affected at all. So Real Madrid, PSG, Porto. Since obviously the last time we checked was when Inter Milan was winning it, so since then, not an Italian side, but clubs that you kind of would expect, and Porto doing really well as well, so that's fantastic for them. So let's take a look at the Ballon d'Or then. Has it been any players that we wouldn't expect before like the clubs start to come back? Taremi's a good one. Berghaus from Ajax. I mean, that's 3 Eredivisie players there that have managed to finish first, second, third in that first year. Taremi, Kenneth Taylor, and a goalkeeper in 3rd place. Look how it just weird it spins out some crazy stuff. So that's quite cool. I like that. I was just flicking through, and I don't know why, but somebody who finished in 8th place, Werder Bremen's 2nd team, were relegated from the 3rd league of the Bundesliga. So, any ideas why that would happen? Because I can't quite tell why. They're not in, like, the relegation playoff or anything like that. I don't know. So, please let me know. Now, I've gone another 7 years, and I was expecting things to be just, like, as you would expect it if we didn't do this simulation, this experiment now. But I don't think it's going to be that way, because somehow Osasuna are champions of Spain. 87 points they've got there. Now, Osasuna, when they started off, would have been in the 3rd division alongside the clubs that we obviously put down there with Barcelona, Real Madrid, etc. They've just done really well, and they've climbed and won. It might just be one of those things. They've got some good players there. That Brazilian looks fantastic. But yeah, that's a little strange. And Atletico Madrid getting relegated, 19th place. So we're only 2037. So that's quite intriguing, to be fair. If we take a look at the 2nd division, Barcelona be our champions, but of course they can't come up, so it's going to be a few different clubs. Some clubs that obviously have dropped down, they might get an opportunity to come back up. In the 3rd divisions, I don't think there's any of the original La Liga sides. Celta. Now, when I left, Celta had just been champions, so they've gone up and come back down again. So they haven't had a good time. They're really struggling to recover. Same as Zaragoza. So they're mainly the only 2 that I can see. But it seems like every time they go down, they can come back up. So if we go to Germany then and have a look at Bayern Munich, they are probably not champions. Okay, Wolfsburg are champions, who have actually won it recently too. So it looks like Wolfsburg and Bayern Munich are the 2 that recovered the most. Borussia Dortmund all the way down in 14th there. It's really cost them, unfortunately. In the Bundesliga 2, we can see Kaiserslautern and Dresden coming up. That's 2 big clubs in Germany that I'm happy to see doing well. But Schalke are down there, haven't really recovered, to be fair, as well as Stuttgart and Union Berlin. In the 3rd division, Bayern Munich 2nd team's coming up. But I can't see, maybe Hannover 96 is the biggest club down there. Mainz 2nd team. Yeah, it looks like Werder Bremen are the biggest side there, who've never been able to recover. They've gone up once into the 2nd Bundesliga, gone straight back down again. So that's unfortunate. Werder Bremen have just been killed off from this. Let's take a look then at the French league, because that's probably going to be dominated by PSG. Yeah, so PSG are still doing exceptionally well there. Saint Etienne are 2nd, Auxerre, Montpellier are 3 teams I did not expect to see behind them. But that is quite cool. The rest of the sides look quite normal, to be fair. Nims coming up, Toulouse are down there. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any big clubs that are trailing down in the 3rd division either. Brest coming up. Yeah, kind of as you'd expect. So we take a look at the Premier League then. Tottenham are champions, so that's wild. Tottenham have won in the last 2 seasons as well. Chelsea managed to pinch one. Norwich were the last side outside of a Premier League team to win it, but we can see Ipswich still doing really well. Now, they benefited for the fact that they were never even flipped because they were right in the middle of their division. Wrexham are back up there. Solihull Moors, have you stayed there the whole time? Good for you. They've got a nice new stadium and everything. Javi Gracia is their manager. Solihull Moors are hanging on, and we like to see it. Halifax, who was a team we did really well in the last time we flipped these leagues, they're in 18th place, just been relegated alongside Everton and Sunderland. Manchester United have managed to pull back, but they're behind Salford still. And we're like 15 years into the future, which is quite funny, to be fair, that the class of 92 Salford team is above Manchester United in the league. Arsenal there in 7th place. Now, into the Championship, which Premier League sides are struggling? We've got West Ham, Blackburn, Burnley, Notts County are still there, or thereabouts. Aston Villa in 18th place. Sheffield United getting relegated again. Eastleigh as well. Gateshead coming up into the Championship. So that's obviously the Vanarama national team who's managed to hold on and not go down too far. But we can see recently it was Wolves who were champions. So they've been struggling. Wolves, they've had to come back up and come back down. League 2, I don't think we're going to see anybody from the Premier League in here anymore. I think they've all managed to recover, unless Brighton, I don't think I've seen, unless they're still in the Vanarama National League. No. So the majority of them have come up, I think, and managed to stay there. So they've managed to recover quite well, eventually. Crystal Palace there in Sky Bet League 1. Where did I see Brighton? Have I just like missed Brighton completely because they're quite difficult to see? Or have they dropped all the way down? Brighton, they're in Sky Bet League 2. I just missed them. Okay, so I don't think any of the big Premier League sides went all the way down and then got relegated. I think we're fine with that. Has it played effect on the Champions League? Do we have any weird Champions League winners? Wolfsburg have won it twice. So, kind of yes. I think that has played a bit of effect to it. Kind of yes. The Ballon d'Or winners, I don't think it would have changed too much from the clubs. It's all Italian clubs. Italy have completely dominated this because they didn't have that effect. They had a bit of a spell where they dropped off, but now it's like even the top 3 players are all from the Serie A. So yeah, they've just done really well in managing to hold on to their reputation. Now I've gone to 2042, meaning this experiment has been running for 20 seasons, and yes, it is a little bit strange. Athletic Bilbao are the champions, but look at the last time that Real Madrid or Barcelona won it. Osasuna's where we've seen it. They won it back-to-back. Almeria won it back-to-back, then Sevilla, then Athletic Bilbao. Barcelona and Real Madrid have been seriously affected by this in the long run, and that is not what I anticipated. They had a spell where they dominated again, and now they've dropped off, and I don't know why. Like, it's really hard to explain why that's happened, but if you look at Real Madrid's trajectory, they've gone up the two divisions where we put them down, then they dominated for ages, and now they've dropped off down into 9th place. It's so bizarre, and the same for Barcelona, all the way at the top for ages, and then they drop off, and La Liga's dominated by 2 different sides. It's very bizarre, isn't it? But La Liga have gained the most reputation to be top again. Serie A dropped down to 4th. Interesting. Let's take a look at the Premier League then, because Tottenham have won that and they've been dominating. My dad is very happy. Man City and Norwich are up there. Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United. Ipswich are still hanging on and doing very bloody well. Same as Solihull Moors. Wrexham are still there. Salford, yeah, they're doing okay too. In the Bundesliga then, we'll take a look at the Bundesliga. Bayern are up there, but they haven't been dominating too much. Nuremberg have won a league in that one, which is great, to be fair. But Hansa Rostock are second, only just behind Bayern Munich. And the rest of the top division, outside of Wolfsburg in 5th, like the other top 6 are just weird, aren't they? Kiel, Ingolstadt, Union Berlin actually are kind of right, but Hansa Rostock, yeah. I mean, Dortmund all the way down in 14th. And they haven't really had a great time. They actually relegated and promoted twice there. Arthur Thiat is their manager. I love seeing it when managers are just like ex-players. Nagelsmann is still there, so he's managed to hold on to his job longer than what he could in real life. But yeah, interesting stuff. Let's take a look at the French League, and then we'll take a look at other stuff as well. And have a look at the Europa Conference League and the Europa League, because there's bound to be some wild and wacky winners in that. PSG have dominated, but that's a shame. We'll move on from that one then straight away, I guess. Champions League. Who has been in the Champions League and won it? Tottenham. Oh, bloody hell. What is happening here? Fair enough. Who's the manager of Tottenham? Marco Rose. So they got this guy as their best player, and you can see why. He is phenomenal. Okay, fair enough. Europa League. Europa Conference League. So Europa League was won by Barcelona. 1816 Munich has won it. That Sabadell side that we mentioned signed a few really good players. They've won it recently as well. Norwich. Okay, so we've got some cool winners in the Europa League, which meant they obviously went into the Champions League and had some fun there as well. But the Europa Conference League, which is here, is currently won by Olympiacos, which is great for all of you Greek viewers. Freiburg won it. Manchester United and Arsenal had 2 seasons there. Granada, Atalanta, Middlesbrough, Troyes from France, Almeria, Ipswich, Nuremberg, Arminia Bielefeld. This is great. Sabadell, Metz, Panathinaikos. If you take a look at the past winners as well, probably going to see some wild clubs in the runners-up position. So Bromby's there for all you Danes who are going to be interested in that. Yeah, this is cool. If we did the same for Europa League. 1816 Munich beat Real Madrid in the final of the Europa League. Yes, I love that. Lazio lost twice in the final back-to-back seasons against Sabadell and Milan. St. Pauli got to a final. St. Pauli, I love that. The old Skull and Crossbones club. MK Dons got to Europa League final. Wimbledon will be crying their eyes out. But there we go. So some interesting stuff happened in this experiment. Did you enjoy it? I'm so sorry that I couldn't get all of the leagues to work, but I still think this gave us some very weird and wacky results that made the video a little bit interesting. Now, Harry Kane has just moved to Bayern Munich. If you want to see what me and my dad suggested that we would do to replace him, check out this video right now.